Hey everyone, what's going on? This is your boy back again, Leon LaGray. We are back with episode 203, and I'm glad I am getting around with podcast, which is weekly and regularly, as like I've said before. And I figured this would be very good. No, I didn't have anything on Friday because I didn't have anything published or written down. Now, this is a one that's going to be very controversial. I do think this is going to be very controversial for people that may see this as, this is how could you support this and stuff like that. But if you say and listen, I would go ahead and give you all the gist and what I think about robotics and AI in the near future. And despite what you think, I think letting go of that old regular job isn't too bad, and we do need to pave the way for some new upcoming jobs, which I think, my personal opinion, not everything about AI and robotics is always going to be bad, and I do think that having to stay static of this way things are going and way people think now, I think having to stay static is not a good thing. And I figured this is going to be a topic of interest where I think a lot of people are going to talk about something like this, but I may go against what I have to say. But to me, I'm going against the grain what um, many people are going against, which is the innovation. And I am not against innovation at all. And I remember having this chat, and I want to say is that bringing this up, I think this is going to be a very good thing for society. Very good thing that you have to have good positive changes, and if you can't change with the times, you can't let anyone or you can't expect anyone to change for you, but yourself. And while my lovely folks are here in today's pod, I want to go ahead and give a quick shout out to the sponsorships I've held over for some time now, and some of it over the years. I figured this would be very good to let you guys know who I am with. And starting out with today's podcast sponsorship is a good old sponsor I've had for many years, which is Zenny's glasses, zenny.com. And of course, you guys heard me say this a lot. If you're working or if you're playing games all the time or doing whatever, having blue light glasses is awesome. Good for you for the long term. If you want to protect your eyes, I say do so. It is wonderful. I am wearing one right now for pretty much on a daily basis. This is a prescription one I use. I love it, love it, love it. And if you want to go ahead and check out zennies.com, go ahead and click the shortener link down below over in your podcast description of your choice. So what are you waiting for? Next is Humble Bundle. Humble Bundle is where you go out and check out your favorite deals on books, games, music, and many, many more to check out on. So go and check out Humble Bundle, and also you'll be supporting a charity of your choice, but you support me as a creator too, as a Humble Bundle partner. Next is Tribe Signs. If you're looking for good furniture coming up for the holidays, Tribe Signs is for you. I say go out, check out Tribe Sign. Anchor Power. If you're wanting to look for a good charging cable, charging port of your choice, Anchor has you covered. If you're looking for something awesome, something that you want to go ahead and have a charger to go, check out Anchor. Last and not least is WebHost Pad. WebHost Pad is an amazing website hosting company that if you're looking to do a blog, you're looking to do something for your business, web hosting pad has you covered. I would say go out, check them out, look into it too, because I've checked out their deals. I think they're quite amazing actually. I've used them actually one time before. It is great. I love web hosting pad. I say check it out if you're looking to do something outstanding. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start the podcast. episode 203 of the Leon LeGray podcast. All your source of tech and technology, and your favorite ranter and commentator of all, Leon LeGray, is here. And let's hit it and rock and roll of today's topic. Alright, everybody. Before we get into today's podcast, and hopefully you guys that are listening, any returning listeners out there, this is a very new introduction. I went ahead and started looking for some new music for my introduction of the podcast. Something I really need to refresh on. So instead of spending money for somebody, I decided to go out of my way, find some new music, non-copyrighted music for my podcasts. And I figured this is one I really needed to find, and I really like this a lot. And the intro track, and something about it just made me feel like something lively, something to be pumped up to talk about for today's episode. And I've told you people, and all you listeners out there, I was going to find a intro track, something that will be a new change on the podcast now until then. And this is something why I figured I'd do something a little bit different. So here you go. And that's what I've been saying. At least I've changed something a bit, something I wanted to do for some time. So there you go, everybody. Kept my word on that too. And so, continue off on the subject, I wanted to go out and make it out there for everybody. And this is one I've really wanted to say on the podcast. And so this is more of a comforter or a reliever, I should say, about the perspective of people. I feel that, man, I do believe in the changes we're going through in now until now and then, because things are happening so fast in the robotics and AI, and it's so hard to keep up. And recently, I've been coming back into Bitcoin, and I know this is not something I will talk about today in today's topic, and a lot of people are going to miss out on this too. I don't know. I think a lot of people are just not interested in the fact that they feel or fear that this is one thing that they will lose is their jobs and their livelihoods. And shoot, you know what? Let the robotic takeover come into place, into fruition. I honestly think if you don't think about one thing, what's going on right now, a lot of people aren't interested in working in the workforce. And you know what? I do think change should happen. In my honest opinion, and if you don't have a lot of workers that you can hire and have people work in these type of jobs, that can be very difficult to find people and to hire people, and that's something that will take forever. Trying to find good people out there, and that I can see why many stores or many of these employers are hurting for people to get in the workforce and trying to get somebody out there. And I don't mind the robotic takeover. And if you look at what's going on, especially with certain industries, I'm gonna especially give you one. I've mentioned about retail, but not a lot of people are talking about this, and especially in trucking. And I may have just said this in the past, and maybe in the previous episode, but with the lost episodes and tapes that I've done over the years, it's hard to recollect them because, for one, I've lost it during my 301 transfer from jumping into one pod hosts from one hosting to the next from other podcasting hosting platforms. I figured out come back and retalk about it anyways. And to me, this isn't bad. And I remember having this conversation with a well-known streamer on Twitch. She's probably one of the biggest streamers that's been streaming for a long time on. She's like one of the OGs on it. And I remember watching her around 2014, and oh my goodness, and I couldn't believe somebody like her is very interested in on that topic on AI. AI is gonna be a massive, very very massive in today's world. This is why I do think that a lot of young people should get into AI and developers. And I'm gonna say this that we're going to need a lot of developers, and especially with AI coming up. And I remember for a while, one thing I've mentioned before that I was against the AI situation, especially with the job market, especially uh, can people how can people do the work that other people um, would be able to take. How are people going to find jobs? Because how the future is going to be for young people, and especially for middle-aged adults. To me, I don't care. Let's be really honest. And you know what? A lot of people are fearing about this whole change on this because a lot of people don't seem to understand is that change happens for a reason, and we definitely need change as a society. This is one thing people forget, and people forget is that change is necessary to evolve. And if you look at way things have turned from the 20th to the 21st century, you know, I remember so much of watching Back in the Future 2, which is one of my favorite films off of the back of the Back to the Future trilogies. And this is just me saying this because I love these kind of films. Though we don't even have a flying car, not as of yet, that this is something that Back in the Future didn't predict. It didn't predict Tesla, which I'm sure that wasn't really something that Steven Spielberg envisioned when he created Back to the Future. But you know what? I have to say that there's going to be things that will happen over time that will make a lot more sense. God, I always believed that we would have flying vehicles by now, but there's always been delays and something about innovation that there's something that people do not understand. We definitely need innovation to strive and to improve. And before we get more into the whole robotics topic, in which I know that's going to be a very interesting one, uh, and something that people will not like coming out of my mouth, but I'm going to say that later on in the show. So getting into AI first. AI is going to be very interesting, or in fact, it has been interesting for the past few years now, and I'm going to tell you, for me, people, I remember like when I've read into forums and been to chat rooms with people, and they felt that they have to pay for an artist because the artist comes first. They don't want to put in the technology for AI. They feel that this is going to ruin the artist. Look, say what you will. I think you know what. If you want to hire an artist, pay for the artist to do your logo, your banners, all that. That's great. Honestly, I'm happy for AI art, AI, just AI technology that will give you the answers. Actually somewhat better than Google search. Google search, I do think that they've are pretty behind. If you look at what Google has done, and one thing I have to agree that they're to a point that they're going to look into, they have to rebrand themselves. And they're going to have to look back and say, listen, um, and I feel, and this is one thing I feel that they've already lost prestige. This is why, if you look at Google as a company, this is a multi-billion, if not a multi-trillion-dollar company. So far, I'm not sure if they've reached up to a trillion. Google, because that is still a young company. That's been around since the late '90s. So look, and where I've looking and researched on Gemini. Now, I haven't used much of Google's Gemini. They say they were supposed to have the Gemini well well done and supposed to be really really good for taking over Google Assistant and these smart displays. The issue that comes lying around now is that Google really messed up, and Google's accuracy of search, it's really piss poor. There's no other way to say it. And now, hopefully, Google will. They've probably have came to their senses already that they really need to start acting up accordingly. Because if you look at Chat GPT and all these technologies from OpenAI, they're ahead of Google. They're ahead of Amazon, and this is an indicator that they have to keep up. They have to keep up what's going on. Otherwise, they will definitely lose this race of the AI race in general. And I do hope that they can catch up, because even though I haven't even I don't own a personal assistant. At some point, I will look into doing a review with Google Nest sometime in my YouTube channel, because over the years they've made some updates that I personally don't like about the Nest. In fact, I've actually preferred Amazon Alexa over the Google Nest. Yeah, that's one thing I think these two differentiate so much. And like if you look about with Google, they've took out features from Google Nest, and believe it or not, I think back in 2018 is where if you've wanted to wake up at a certain time and make sure to have a preset music alarm to wake up to. Let's say you want to wake up to metalcore and just have the music wake up to you loud and gritty and crunchy and make sure that you are fully awake. And that right there, I thought it was cool because I love to hear music first thing in the morning. And then you have these annoying, I don't know what it is, but damn, they have this annoying default music that comes with the Nest. It's not really pretty. I don't care for that at all. This is something. Oh my god. I really wish there were features that Google didn't take away from the Nest. And that's one thing I feel that if you were to take away things that people enjoyed from the Google Nest, which I personally, they should listen to the to people that make their complaints into their forums, and Google should start listening to those folks because, first of all, you got tons of customers, and that's one thing I feel that these big companies, these conglomerates, right now, once they become very big and high and mighty, they don't give a shit because they can do whatever what's necessary, and that's a very sad thing. I don't know why. They think they are high above, and once you know, they're gonna understand or fully understand that they can't just not avoid the criticism. They've got to do what's best for the customer, and that's something I do not like about at least a company like Google. If they want to do something right, they got to they got to listen to the customer, and they want to see what features what they want to see on their products. Now, I haven't even fully tested on um, Alexa was from Amazon. Yeah, Amazon Alexa. Now, something I wouldn't personally own. Something I don't care for to own because I know I have parent actually my both of my parents, my stepdad and my mom, they they actually own the Amazon Alexa. They use it for the weather, they use it for stocks, they use it basically for everything really, and they use it for music, which is supplied and that comes with the music that comes with Amazon Music, um, pre preset on their server. So, anyways, that's one thing I can tell you is even though it is good to that you got products like that. Now, if you look at it this way, if you want to know my full opinion where AI is going, I know that the clear winner will be OpenAI, Chat GPT, down the road, and even though Gemini, I remember I would say over the past year or two when Gemini, yeah, actually it was a year ago that was released by Google. Gemini came out a year ago, and one thing that a lot of people notice is that they've people said something funny. In fact, the funny thing is that they say something is they want people. Someone asked if they can have the founding fathers are created in generated AI, and then what happened was that they gave them the black founding fathers, which I thought was so super odd that they would do something very very strange, but then Google came up with a response and say, listen, the Gemini is not perfect, but we are striving to do our best to make tons of improvements. Now, I don't know if that was really intentional with Google, but I thought that was really weird when I found out over a year ago about the issues that they have with their product. And it's one thing to say about AI. I do think this whole AI race will be bigger, um, bigger than any of us can think, and a lot of people will be pretty much falling apart, or are basically not gonna keep up with this because there's so much information that all of us don't even know. And I do feel as somebody that is watching things about what's to come, people are going to struggle and they're going to wonder what is for us to do. Well, there are plenty for anybody that can do with AI, and I do think AI will change the way you work. And as far as being a productive member of society, I've think there are going to be plenty of things that any of us humans can use AI. I don't think it's all that bad, And I get it though. Not everybody can sit around the computer and when it wants to use AI. I think everybody's a preference of work is very very different. On one hand, people work well with computers. On the other hand, a lot of people love to work with their hands on, and work. And there's plenty of work like that for sure. I just think there's people that are not paying attention to the fork on the road and wondering what is there for us to do. And that's a silly that can be a concerning question, but at the same time, I always look at this as a very silly question because there are plenty of things to do. And if you think that you're going to be, there's no jobs for any of us young folks, I have newsflash for you because there are plenty of things that you can use for these technologies. And the way I see this is that, first of all, I'm quite open minded. I don't mind about these things too. And I'm sure probably about 2 years, 3 years ago, I was probably against it, but I look at it this way too. And I see Gen Z. Gen Z does not care about the real world, and a lot of these people are raised on the internet age, looking to do what they want to see with their future, and what they see is these jobs, like you call what you call quote unquote retail grocery stores, and then you got other industry, especially with warehouse and manufacturing, which they're not even paying um, crud. They're getting paid like wage slaves. And you know what? I think making these changes with these types of technologies is probably, I would say, for good for the better. And you know what? These companies aren't gonna pay anyone any better. You look at um, the way things are happening now. You got a lot of these companies that are going to even though I, a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's going to hurt people to find good jobs and blah blah blah. You know what? I say whatever, because if they cannot employ people, I say, who gives a damn? Let AI robotics take it over, because I don't care. And if you cannot find people that it's going to stick around the workforce, then a lot of people are just going to bail out and say, "All right, I'm out of here. I'm going to dip." That's what people are going to do, you know. And my advice to the young folks, especially the ages between 30s, between their mid 30s and younger, I'd say get into software development. And if you're not into software development, if anything, get into the hardware space. And if you're into the hardware space, pursue it. Pursue it, for goodness sakes. And to me, that's AI is going to be enabled in so many factors, and especially with hardware too. It's going to happen. And to me, when you do not look in the future, what's going to happen right now, and for if you do not invest in AI, you're going to be left behind. I will tell you now, because as somebody that this is something I've had a conversation with someone on stream, which is Kitty Plays. If you do not know her, she streams via Twitch. She just came back recently, a couple weeks back. Her link is twitch.tv/ Kitty Plays, and she's basically everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, you name it. So I was on chat a few weeks ago. I've spoken to her about AI and the future technologies, and for me, this is an incredible time to be living right now. And even though, yes, I do agree that there are certain aspects, certain fields that people do not want to bring robotics in these stores, and people feel that there's going to be a loss of human interaction. My take on that is, you have to make ways for new things to happen. You know, right now I understand that there's talk with people that even though I read online, and I hear people say that if our society is more like the Japanese or the Koreans with their robotics technology, that can they can use robots to serve us food in fancy Italian restaurants and why not. And I know a lot of people are going to be against this too. And let me tell you one thing is that there's people online, like there's always two sides of the coin, right? You got one that are for this, the others are against this. And let me tell you one thing is when I used to work in an Italian restaurant, this was many, many years ago. And I remember my colleagues I used to work with, and now the colleagues that used to work there, they no longer work in that restaurant. They've they've moved they've moved along with their lives and they are doing something else now. And so at that point, I remember there's something about this that makes me wonder. You know, when I've worked in restaurants like this, is that you got um customers, they treat waiters, waitresses like shit. It's something about people that I never understand with people that for some reason they've always have a loose temper, and they've always figured that they need this steak done, they need this pasta right exactly, and I don't know what it is, but they've always have such a damn attitude, and I get it, I get it. The people, there's people do not want to work in certain industries, and I get the other coin flipped around and said that if they hire if robots were to be employed, things will be much more of a peaceful world, and that way nobody has to deal with people's nasty attitude. And I would say fair enough. And if I were to live in a place like, I don't know, Kyoto, Tokyo, whatever, I mean, that's probably a paradise for tech nerds and people that likes robotics, right? Then the other coin I see is, for me, I can become a social butterfly, and I do not mind talking to people or interacting with people. The one thing a lot of people they've lose is the whole kindness. People forget that kindness comes a long way, and that is what's lost in our society. And I get why people have decided not to deal with people anymore, and they feel that if you bring a robot in, that will take care of the problems, not having to deal with people right in front, especially with the attitude, especially in America, because I know in America we are very much of a fast-driven society. We need this now, and I want my needs to be taken care of soon as possible. And I can see the argument behind that too. And you know what? If the problem with we Americans in the stateside, however, I'll have to put it this way, and I'll just have to say it is that we, as much as we want to be as fast developing and hopefully down the road, people can see that there's nothing wrong, nothing to fear about things, especially with a certain industries, certain sectors of the U.S. having to have robots serve us. My issue is that going to continue to lag further behind, and that's one thing is that we're a country that are a very slow driven society. We don't accept things in a faster rate like other first world countries that already have robotics. They already have things like automatic servation. Like especially if you go to Tokyo, you want to order sushi or a dish plate right there in China, whatever. Things are further. Basically, they're basically decades ahead of us, like 3 decades ahead of us, compared to in the United States. While we look at the United States and man, we're not even ahead of ourselves, and you almost wonder, what are we doing? Really, what are we really doing? And that's where I see the frustration, but at the same time, I don't feel bad at all because if you want to have your time spent better than just working for a boss and slaving with very little pay, that's why you got a lot of young people are wanting to do something different, and if you want to go out and work, fine, go work in the nursing sector, healthcare, tech sector is always going to be huge. And if you want to be um, the best at something, there's always going to be work elsewhere. And you just got to find that work and find that drive. And for me, however, if you're going to be enslaving, if that's what you like, go on and do that too. That's up to you, bro. Go ahead and work for the rest of your life with a boss that you despise. And personally, I take the high road because I want to find a job that will be much easier for me. That's why I like talking about content that at least it will give people a new perspective and new aspects. And especially, hopefully, if you are listening to this podcast, you probably will learn something, and this will probably be a something that will shape your viewpoint, especially that having to cut the fear of AI and robotics, which it's not going to be 100% bad, but you know what? There's always going to be something about a robotics. It's not going to be perfect, but it's what we're going to have right here and there to change the shape and view of our current problems that we have today. It's not always a bad thing too, and for me, that's why I've always posted my podcast. I enjoy my podcast, but do I do my podcast for free? Not really. I will say one thing is that the reason I enjoy doing this is because I like to bring myself out there. I have an opinion, you know, but people do not think the bigger picture, and that what they see with AI, robotics, and machinery work too. And sure, there's going to be problems, and if you think about it this way, who's making motherboards and other parts of these industries, like you got the Tronic hands that creates these robots, and that's an industry that there's always going to be someone out there that's going to use these robots to create parts and electronics, things like that too. And hey, I don't mind about that too, because if you can't find workers that want to work in these factories, and I'd say fine, let's bring the good people in, get some good uh, um, robotic assistants to help you right there too, because there'll be times that look, you people will feel that you need a human partner to work with. Now, in defense, people do need people around because there are a good sense of people that can be good in good uses. I will say that the world is always going to need assistance, and the problem is that if you are a one that's complaining about having an assistance around you, if you can't find help, I'd say looking over a robotic companion wouldn't be a bad idea. They'll have structural bones, something similar to humans. I know that Tesla is doing so much more than just cars, right? They're doing Neuralink, Starlink, and all these different projects that Elon Musk is doing. Do I agree with everything Elon does? No. And did I care about the whole $44 billion buyout of Twitter then becoming X? No, no, I don't. Not at all. I do think that was I don't know, that was a freaking odd change, especially for the Twitter landscape. And now Twitter has become its own cesspool, of things. But you have to look at the other way around. You've got robotics that's being built by the Tesla company, And I'm sure there's other companies in the U.S. That are doing their own thing with robotics. So, and sure, nothing wrong with that too. I hope that we can come further ahead of the game when it comes to robotics. But you look at it this way, the that field is going to be starting out with innovative states like New York, California, and these kinds of states that are into that already have universities using these test modules. Oh, and let me not forget Boston's MIT. You got students that are working on um, testing bots, and the scary part about this, the scariest part about all this, and I'm just gonna say that when I first heard about the robotic dogs, the one that walks that walks and runs and does things like that, you almost wonder if these things, let's say if for any reason those mechanical dogs were to run a much faster rate than a regular canine would. I mean, wouldn't that be scary if you got chased by them and then you almost wonder how you're gonna escape that? And let's say if it were to attack another human, I don't know though. That's just probably, I'm just foresighting it in a much scarier foresight, which I don't want to scare any of the audience, but I don't know. It's when I first watched it years ago, I thought it was quite freaky. How lifelike like that, how much, how surreal that those things are, and I almost imagine that this. I mean, sure, it's very interesting the way I'm seeing it, but my God, I feel that we really need to slow down on this too, and just focus on the electronical, or the the humanoid side of robotics, and then just working on robotic dogs first. Like when I watched this concept on YouTube, this was a few years ago. Somebody shared it to me, and it was very scary to see these lifelike robotic for like dogs. It was it very much looked surreal the way it moved and all that. Even though it doesn't have joints yet, and yeah, sure, it will take some time for things to develop much more lifelike than they'll ever be too. But thankfully, it doesn't have a mouth where it's gonna end up biting you too. Now, I'm not sure. I'm just like I said. I'm just spectating. There's just a lot of foresight that I'm just going over into my head, that how much people are gonna take the changes, and I'm sure that a lot of you guys are already seeing drone deliveries that you're getting packages delivered right into your front porch, or there's just so many innovations that we've already seen. Now you got the cars out. I mean, it's wild that you got electronic cars, which I know a lot of people love the Tesla companies a lot. For me, like I've said, I have a lot of mixed feelings with Tesla now. I remember it was liked by so many people, and many years. For I would not many years, but it's just a few years ago. It was really good. I remember 2020, between 2020 and 2021, during the COVID periods. I remember just going online and hearing people love how good Tesla is and how amazing Tesla as a company. That was a company that's picked up so much heat back then. But now, I don't know, man. You almost wonder if this is a direction we really want to see as humans. Do you really want things to get take over so fast that it's hard to keep up. And look, at some like this is not something that we're not going to see this decline anytime soon. Not at all. No, no, no. I do think that this is going to be the start. And if you think about the way things are going, you know, things are going to continue more so and more so because this is a demand that people want to see. A lot of people want to see this kind of new shaping future in our zeitgeist and our in our culture, our technical culture. Let's put it this way too, because I would say there's a good majority of people want to see this, and I'm sure that I can sure tell you that there's people that don't want to see this kind of change at all. And I get it. There's always two sides of every coin about what people want to see within their future. And I like robotics because that at least can handle so much that we can do. I mean, it's right now we're just in the starting process in the U.S. I don't know about other countries. I know Japan, Korea, China. They're so ahead. Like I've said, 3 decades over, and we're so behind over. They're like 20 years behind, or 25 years behind. Who knows? And that's why I can't understand why a lot of people just don't are just not embracing this. And I'll be fair though. I wasn't sure how things are gonna fly by with me when I first heard about the droids and all that too. Now I would say that I'm okay with that. Hopefully it doesn't be used for evil. Yeah, and that's basically what I've got to say with AI and robotics topic. It's like I said, it's very fascinating, and to me, I've not gone to that full length of that this topic about AI and robotics in depth in any of my episodes. I do think this is one of those things that we can definitely see as a definitely as a game changer, and I haven't even seen robotics being used. I don't know, like in hotels or in local restaurants or whatever, right? I'm sure it'll eventually come around some points. It's going to be a matter of who will accept this product. And look, the items or those types of units, they're going to be very expensive on launch dates. And they say about the Tesla bot, it's supposed to be a very expensive product coming out on launch. Now, this year Tesla bots are supposed to be one of those things that the rich and famous are able to afford at this point. Now, as far as the average customer or average consumer, having AI and robot knowing what to do, now that's going to be unaffordable for the average person. Now, if you're a single person, you got so much going on, you need someone to do an auto schedule for you and create something. I think there are probably some good benefits along with that too. And this is this is something I can say that if you are single and you've dealt with life for your whole entire existence, no partner, anything like that, I probably think that you will end up benefiting this type of technology and being one of those what's the word I'm trying to think, like the your first time, or you're an investor to the product. You're basically you've invested this product because you paid for the product for you know that's where I see someone like this is that if you got the funding to purchase, let's say, a Tesla bot or any other bot, you pretty much are ahead of anyone else that purchased this too. And I remember I've purchased my there's like going back to the early days, especially with the improving electronics over the last few years, especially with phones. I'll give an example of the smartphone. I remember holding my very first HTC G1 Android phone, and this was one of those phones that that was a really different phone for me back then too. If you look at where phones are going at this time, you're going to see a lot of these phones probably in the next few years that will uh, that will you know will fade away. And those type of phones isn't something that will last and people want to hold them and type be in front of the screen. Now, like, but anyways, where was I going with this too? Like, oh, right. I can remember having my first Android smartphone. That was one thing that was a change to how people use technology. And today we carry a freaking phone with us, in most literal sense with us, a freaking personal assistant with us all the time. And like back then, when you say, "Hey, pick up the phone," when people say that, that means that people have talked about a landline phone, and they want you to pick up the damn phone because the back then the telephone companies will charge you depends on the minute, and it was a very weird thing back then when you're owning a landline, and especially when you've owned a landline, the telephone companies will charge you a ridiculous amount of money for uh, long distance telephone service, especially with if you've had AT&T landline, you probably will understand what I'm talking about too. But now we've had these phones, and these phones have now come a long ways uh, compared to the yesteryears that we've lived on, right? And sure, these companies are going to be charging you long distance and international rates because they gotta make money somehow, right? But regardless, now you look at things of the matter. Like, I'm not just talking about now AI and robotics right now. And my example with this, I remember when the 2000s came along, right? I remember I was young, and I figured there's gonna be brighter days ahead, things like that too. And looking uh where I grew up back in the late 90s, and then coming in from 1999 through to 2000s, I remember that whole shift, the whole paradigm where we've had new things develop along the way in a much faster rate that I can definitely keep up. And I remember I was in high school. That during that time, just when this was a time when a lot of people at that time still had iPods. I remember uh, I when I was changing electives, changing classes. I remember going through the locker, just changing books and assignments, whatever, right? And I remember a kid right next. I remember in the hallway, some kid had an iPod Shuffle, and this guy he was carrying music, like I don't know how many songs, right? Like with 1 gigabyte or 2 gigabytes of music on the iPod Shuffle. But man, that was a very different time back then, and that those things back then were actually pretty expensive to own. But now you could probably find a cheap iPod Shuffle for less than that. And I guarantee you that iPods I grew up back then, that was revolutionary. The smartphones, that was revolutionary, and it was a very cool time to be alive. And I guarantee you is that if you are not jumping into AI, I don't know what to say because we've definitely have come a long ways, especially in America. I know you have countries that have, you know, develop over time, but they've pretty much developed in a much faster rate than uh, any of the first world counterparts like the UK, um, US, Canada, and they're I would say they're not ahead of us, but we're not ahead of these countries, but we're pretty behind in somewhere at this point. And I do believe that we could do a lot better. So, and I personally believe so too. And it's about time that we'll probably end up shaping things in a much faster rate. But that's what I've got to say. Is if you're not ahead, what's to come, then you're probably gonna end up being behind in the next few years. And at the end of the day, you know, what am I saying? Out of all this, well, what I'm saying right there is, there are things that we'll have to end up learning something fresh and something brand new. And I remember years ago, this came and come. I remember the Google glasses. I thought they looked pretty impressive when Google Glass came out in the scenes, and I thought it was really interesting that they've came out with such a highly advanced looking thing where you have these things on screen, right? Like it's like you put your glasses on and then you see things come up on your visor, which I thought it was the most coolest thing. Yet I felt that at that point it was something that not every consumer would be able to consume, because I look over and I felt that at that point, I felt, is this a product that it, I don't know, it was something I would love to own, but at the same point is Google was asking for a lot for Google Glasses at that point. It's like, hey, it's very cool, but I remember that was like probably a prototype they had in the early stages, so something I don't think the public was ready to put down money for expensive lenses or Google lenses, whatever the product is. I thought that was interesting. And then now, you looked over at now years later, moving fast forward with Apple's Vision, Apple's Vision and Apple Vision Pro, which is super expensive for a product like that. And I figured, that for a product like that for Apple releasing the Apple Vision, that's insane. And the 3,400. I would tell you right now, if you even if you're a Apple guy or gal, I would tell you straight up, you probably will lose your freaking mind spending this kind of money in this type of economy like that. I think it's insane to spend that kind of money. Like, I remember I watched this gal. I think her name is iJustine, and I remember she had this product everywhere she went, and she wasn't shy about it either. I remember she went through the airport and she got tons of crazy, funny looks from other people. I don't know though. It looked very funny to me, but I'm not gonna carry around such a big ass visor around, which I just don't think it's very appealing. And to me, if I wanted to see the beach or if I wanted to go out and play in the park, why would I ever need this thing on me? I personally don't need it. I personally don't need an expensive technology to enjoy something. I think this is really ridiculous. I mean, if I want something, I'll just get to my phone or get to my desktop, which is less expensive, compared to a freaking oversized visor to put it around your head and walk around with it. No, no, thank you. Mm-mm-mm. I don't know. I probably am the lone wolf on this, and maybe probably thinking about this further ahead than the rest of the folks that think that I they probably think that I um not realistic with the ideas. You know, I don't know. It's very interesting where we've come ahead of this. I think it is quite interesting. Uh, but we'll have to see where things go later on down the road. As far as innovation, it come along the way with AI and robotics. Because the more I hear about stuff like this, excuse me, it's insane, but it's happening, and that's where if you do not do something to create something for yourself, I don't feel sorry at all if you guys are left behind of the whole technological race um, right from the very beginning. Because when you got guys like me and other tech podcasters that are talking about this, how things are changing and changing the world, and you know what I mean, I will tell you that you got products that are going to do well, and if you want my further advice on it, I do think that probably the robotics will do a lot of a better job than the iRobot vacuum cleaners. That's for sure. And if I want my house to be clean, probably it will outcompete the iRobot vacuums models. And who knows how long those things are going to stay in business. Because one thing is, if you want to cut the expense out for the middleman or someone that wants to clean your home, probably is a benefit. There's probably a good net benefit to anything. Is if you, let's say, if you don't have anybody like a partner, that's probably a benefit for anybody. Like I remember I've had this conversation with my friend and roommate, and this is something we've talked about now about let's just say if you somebody needed help and like let's say get the gutters out, get something done outside your house, and to be fair with that kind of argument is that yes, that's an argument good to be said and good to be made if you want a a servant or a, let's say, a butler, for instance, to help you out that you're not able to do. I think it will save a lot of pain and ache to call somebody or cut the inconvenience of letting somebody out, drive over or come over to your place and get something fixed that simple. I probably am not gonna lie, but that's what I'm trying to say is that I'm sure there's going to be things that robotics will definitely do. But I will tell you one thing is, those things are not going to replace electricians or plumbers. Those right there, I don't think so, because you still got high people with these kind of high field dangerous jobs. They're still going to be around, and I don't think a robot's gonna do stuff like that too. Probably when it gets much more advanced, who knows? We'll see. But for there are still needs for humans to do certain jobs that we're gonna still continue to have. That's a fact, and especially like let's say, like I've just mentioned, like electricians, plumbers, um construction workers, which we will still have humans for construction workers until probably who knows we'll probably have a robotic construction worker taking over. But who's to say? Who's to know, right? Anyways, that's my talk for night. Guys, let me know what you think on the comments down below. I always read the comments on YouTube. If you put it down, great. I'm always active on good pods, and that's one thing I will mention. Oh, check up on all your podcasting services of your choice, because I am everywhere. And also, one last announcement before I go. I want to let everybody know that I am a content creator for Fountain.fm. And if you do not know what Fountain.fm is, if you are somebody that are listening to me on that application, and that is a crypto enthusiast like me, and one of the things I like about is that you earn sats on every episode. It doesn't have to be my podcast that you're listening to me on. You can listen to any podcaster that or any show that you listen to. You earn sats, the sats on that episode. And so, guys, check me out. And if you listen to me right through um, Fountain.fm, you are definitely supporting me as a content creator, and that is awesome if you end up supporting me through Fountain.fm, and I'll have the link down below, down in the show notes, so that way you could check up on Fountain.fm for your support, and it is available on Apple, um, on the App Store and on Google Play Store right there, whatever phone that you use. So with that said, everybody, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me on episode 203 on AI and electronic and robotics episode. So with that said, everybody, I am out. Thanks so much for listening to me. Have a great day. Ciao.